They told me my baby had died, that she'd been born too early, that there was nothing they could do. They handed me silence, and I believed it. For 20 years, I mourned a child I never got to hold. And then one rainy afternoon, she showed up at my door, alive, real, and everything I thought I knew shattered. It was a cold night in November. I was only 19, terrified, alone, and in labor. The nurses rushed me into the delivery room. I was early, too early, 31 weeks. They said they'd do everything they could. But the beeping machines, the sterile walls, the way the doctor avoided my eyes, none of it gave me hope. Then I heard the cry. For a moment, just a moment, I heard my baby cry. But when I blinked, the nurse was shaking her head. They said she was gone. Stillborn. Complications. They needed to take care of the body. That I didn't need to see her. That it would only make things harder. And like a fool, I let them. I was a child myself. And I let them take her away. I named her Hope. Even though I was told not to. Even though I never saw her face. I moved back in with my mother after the hospital. She never mentioned the baby again. She didn't believe in dwelling on pain, she said. But I thought about Hope every single day, every single night. I would lie awake imagining what she'd look like, what she'd sound like. And every year on her birthday, I'd light a candle. Sometimes I swore I felt her. Not like a ghost, more like a presence. A whisper that something wasn't right. But I buried it, just like they buried her. It was an ordinary day. I had just come home from my shift at the bookstore. I was tired, carrying groceries, fumbling for my keys. And then I heard it, a knock. Not unusual, but something about it made my stomach turn. When I opened the door, I saw her, a girl, young, brown curls, green eyes that looked so familiar it hurt. "Are you Emily Parker?" she asked. I froze. "Who's asking?" She hesitated, then held out a photo. It was old, faded, but I recognized it instantly. It was me, at 19, in a hospital gown, holding a tiny newborn. My blood ran cold. I think you're my mother," she said. I must have stood there for a full minute. No sound, no breath, just shock. My knees buckled. I had to lean against the doorframe. "You're mistaken," I whispered. But she wasn't. Her name was Leah, she said. She had been raised in another state by people she thought were her parents. Until last week. They told her the truth, that she had been adopted, that it was a private hospital arrangement, that her birth mother had supposedly died during childbirth. Except I didn't die, and she didn't either. We sat on the porch. I couldn't invite her in, not yet. I was trembling. She told me everything, her childhood, her adoptive parents, loving but always secretive, and how she found the photo in a hidden box after her mother passed away. There were notes, old medical papers, an address, mine. I looked at the photo again. It wasn't just me. In the background, I could see the nurse, the same one who told me my daughter had died. Leah pulled out another photo, newer, of that same nurse, standing next to her adoptive parents, smiling like family. I felt like the world had split in two. They had lied to me, taken my baby, sold her. My stomach twisted. I stood up, pacing, tears hot in my eyes. "I heard you cry," I said. I knew something wasn't right. Leah reached for me, unsure. "I needed to know the truth. I didn't mean to hurt you." But it wasn't her fault. She was the one stolen. I was the one deceived. And somewhere, someone had orchestrated it all. Leah handed me one last thing. A name, Nurse Evelyn Ross. The woman who told me my baby had died, she now ran a private clinic, a fertility center, a place known for helping high-risk families adopt quietly. Suddenly, my grief had a face, and I needed answers. They told me my baby had died, but someone lied. And now that I knew she was alive, I wasn't going to stop until I found out who took her and why. I spent the following weeks in a haze. My body was healing, but my heart was raw, torn open by the silence of a nursery that would never hear a baby cry. People tiptoed around me, neighbors dropped off casseroles. My mother stayed for a few days but avoided eye contact. Even the nurses at my postnatal checkups treated me like fragile glass. But the one who changed the most was Ryan. He never spoke about the baby again, never said her name, never asked how I was coping. He just threw himself into work and started coming home later and later, reeking of bar cologne and someone else's perfume. I tried once to bring it up, asked him if he wanted to look at the ultrasound photos I'd kept. He stood there, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Don't start this again, Julia. We have to move on." Move on? Like she never existed? A month later, I found the tiny box of baby clothes I had packed away, still sealed in the closet. I held the pink knitted hat in my hands and sobbed so hard I thought I'd split open. That's when I made the decision. I needed answers, and not from Ryan, from the hospital. I drove myself back to Westfield Memorial with trembling hands. I told the woman at the front desk I wanted to see my daughter's death certificate. She gave me a confused look, then asked me to wait while she checked something. A few minutes later, she returned with a file and a tight smile. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we don't have a certificate filed under your name. No record of a stillbirth either." My mouth went dry. I stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "That can't be right," I said. "I gave birth here on September 17th. Julia Benton, baby girl." She double-checked. Still nothing. Just a blank. I left the hospital in a daze. A chill had wrapped around my spine that no sunshine could melt. At first, I told myself it was a clerical error. Hospitals lose things. It happens. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing roots. That night, I asked Ryan again. I told him what happened at the hospital, how they couldn't find her certificate, how there was no official record of our daughter's death. He slammed his beer can on the table. "Jesus, Julia, do you even hear yourself? You're becoming obsessed. There was a baby. She died. We buried her." "Where?" I asked. "Where is she buried, Ryan?" "What cemetery? What grave?" He blinked, paused too long, then mumbled something about a private plot near his uncle's farm, which he'd supposedly handled alone because I was too weak at the time. But I had never seen a grave, never attended a funeral, never received a death certificate, nothing, just a void. From that moment on, I knew something was wrong, very, very wrong. I started digging. First, I contacted a lawyer, told them I wanted access to hospital records for my own childbirth. They said it would take time, especially if something was sealed. Then I reached out to a friend who worked at the clinic where I had done my early ultrasounds. She confirmed that my pregnancy had been healthy, no anomalies, no cause for fetal death. And when I finally managed to speak with one of the nurses who had been present that night, she went pale when I mentioned the date. "I remember you," she said quietly. Her voice trembled. you were sedated almost immediately after delivery. It wasn't normal protocol, but someone higher up gave the order. I asked her what happened to the baby. She just shook her head and whispered, "I don't know." I never saw her leave with the standard team. Then she ended the call. I felt like I was going insane. Everywhere I turned, I found fog and silence. And the one person who should have been grieving with me, Ryan, was growing more distant, more cruel. He called me delusional, said I was making it all up to punish him. One night I caught him shredding papers in his office. I asked what it was. He said, "Old bills." But I saw the edge of something pink in the pile, a hospital wristband. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I went through his filing cabinet after he left the house. Most of it was boring financial stuff. But at the very bottom, beneath a stack of tax returns, I found a thin manila envelope. Inside it was a photo, a baby, wrapped in a white blanket, eyes open, alive. The timestamp on the back said September 18th, 2005. A full day after she was supposedly stillborn. My fingers trembled so violently I nearly dropped it. There was no name, no notes, just that one haunting image, proof. I confronted Ryan that night. I didn't scream, didn't cry. I just held out the photo and asked, "Who took this?" He froze, and then for the first time in months I saw something in his eyes. Fear, not anger, not irritation, pure bone-deep fear. He grabbed the photo from my hands and tore it in half. "You don't know what you're doing, Julia," he snapped. "You're going to ruin everything." I backed away and locked my bedroom door that night. It was clear now. My baby hadn't died. She had been taken, and Ryan was part of it. For 20 years, I lived with a ghost, a daughter I was told never took a breath, but now I knew the truth was still out there and she might be too. But that was only the beginning. What happened next changed everything. Click on part 2 to uncover what really happened before it's too late.